So picture this. You are standing in the middle of a hardware store aisle on a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, yeah, just staring up at that massive, towering wall of cardboard squares.
Right, all wrapped in plastic. And you're standing there trying to remember exactly what size you need.
Which is a struggle all on its own.
It really is. But underneath that, you're quietly grappling with this household chore question that honestly almost everyone seems a little embarrassed to ask out loud.
Which is, how often are you actually supposed to change your air filter?
Exactly. I mean, it feels like a question with such a simple answer, right?
You would think so. But the information out there is just endlessly contradictory. Some people say 30 days.
Others swear by 90 days or even 6 months.
Yeah, and people just end up guessing. They assume it's, too basic of an issue to bother a professional with.
But when we actually dig into the mechanical reality of what that little cardboard square is doing, it turns out this isn't basic at all.
Not even close. It's pretty much the single most critical maintenance factor for the hardest working machinery in your home.
And that is exactly what we are focusing on for today's deep dive. To really get to the bottom of this, we are pulling directly from the technical guidance of Dave Hartzell.
Which is fantastic source material.
Oh, absolutely. Dave is the owner of Hartzell's Heat and Air in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, and he is a NATE certified master HVAC technician.
And for those who might be unfamiliar, NATE stands for North American Technician Excellence.
Right. It's basically the absolute gold standard in the HVAC industry. It means the technician has passed some very rigorous real-world testing on the deep physics and mechanics of these systems.
And Dave has been doing this for exactly 47 years.
Exactly 47 years. I mean, that is a massive amount of time seeing the physical consequences of people getting this wrong.
Oh, for sure. And also seeing the operational stability that happens when they actually get it right.
So the mission for our deep dive today is to unpack Dave's 47 years of insight. We want to demystify how your equipment actually works and show you the foolproof ways you can safely check and protect it.
But to really grasp what Dave is teaching here, we have to start by completely tearing down the most common misconception about why residential air filters exist in the first place.
Okay, I have to admit, I used to have the exact wrong mental model for this.
Most people do. What did you think it was doing?
I mean, I always looked at that pleated paper and just assumed the filter was basically a giant mask for the house.
Ah, right, like a whole home HEPA purifier.
Exactly. The logic seems sound at a glance. It's literally called an air filter. So I figured its main job was to pull out allergens so we have pristine, breathable air in the living room.
It is such an incredibly common assumption, but Dave emphasizes that you have to completely invert that thinking. Your home's HVAC system is not an air purifier.
No.
No, it's a temperature and humidity control system. The filter's absolute primary directive is to protect the machinery, not the air you breathe.
Wow. Okay, so it's less like a medical mask for human lungs and maybe more like a heavy-duty screen door protecting a fan from sucking in leaves.
Yes, that is a perfect analogy because a screen door keeps the big debris out of the moving parts.
Right.
And that physical screen is necessary because of how the system operates. It's not just creating new air from outside and pushing it in.
It's running a continuous loop, right?
Exactly. It pulls the air from inside your house, drags it through the return ducts, conditions it, and pushes it back out.
And that air is carrying literally everything suspended in your home's environment. We're talking dust, laundry lint, pet dander.
Microscopic cooking grease.
Yeah. And all of that debris is heading straight for the internal components located inside that metal cabinet in your attic or your closet.
Specifically, it's heading for the blower wheel and the indoor evaporator coil.
So let's talk about those parts. Because the blower wheel isn't just a flat fan blade like a ceiling fan, is it?
No, not at all. It's typically what they call a squirrel cage design.
Yeah.
So imagine a cylinder made of dozens of small, curved, cupped blades.
Okay.
And those cups are specifically engineered to scoop a very precise volume of air.
But if dust and pet hair bypass the filter,
They pack right into those little cups, and suddenly the wheel loses its cupped shape entirely. It's just spinning blindly, totally failing to scoop or move the air.
man, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And then you have the indoor coil, which Dave says is even more sensitive.
Oh, way more sensitive. So in the summer, that coil gets extremely cold as the refrigerant expands inside of it.
And as the warm house air passes over that cold metal, condensation forms. So the coil is actively sweating, pulling humidity out of the air.
Right, so consider the physical reality there. You have a wet, cold, tightly spaced grid of metal fins.
Yeah.
If you allow a continuous stream of dust and lint to hit that wet metal because your filter is full or missing, you are essentially creating mud.
Oh man, mud. And that mud just bakes on and hardens into cement, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And once those fins are caked in a layer of grime, the system can no longer transfer heat. The metal is completely insulated by dirt.
So the machine literally cannot change the temperature of your house the way it was engineered to do.
Exactly. Dave makes it very clear having cleaner air to breathe and getting allergy relief, that's a fantastic secondary benefit.
A bonus, basically.
Right, a bonus.
Yeah.
But the primary mission of that flimsy piece of cardboard is guarding the complex, highly calibrated machine sitting right behind it.
Understanding that the filter is a physical bodyguard for the machinery that completely changes the stakes for me.
It really does, because if the filter's job is to take the hit so the internal parts don't have to, we really need to look at what happens when that bodyguard gets completely overwhelmed.
Because the invisible damage happening behind closed doors is pretty severe.
Dave refers to this as starved airflow.
Starved airflow. Okay, so is it kind of like trying to run a marathon while breathing through a really heavy winter scarf?
Oh, I love that analogy. Yes, because your system is designed to pull a massive unhindered stream of air through that return duct every single minute the motor is running.
We are talking hundreds of cubic feet of air per minute. It expects a totally clear runway.
Right. And when the filter is heavily plugged with dog hair and dust, that clear runway is just blocked. A plugged filter drops that massive stream of air down to a mere trickle.
And the physical strain from that has to be immense.
It is. The mechanics of the strain are actually fascinating.
Mm.
When the airflow drops to a trickle, the blower motor doesn't just, slow down and take a break.
Doesn't know how to stop.
Exactly. It actively attempts to pull the air it was designed to pull. So it strains against that literal wall of dust. It works incredibly hard, increasing its electrical power draw to try and force air through an impossible barrier.
And over time, pulling all that extra power generates a ton of excess heat in the motor windings, right?
Yes, which degrades the insulation and causes the motor to age significantly faster than it should.
But the motor strain is really just the beginning of the problem. Dave details how this choked airflow triggers these catastrophic chain reactions.
Chain reactions that actually defeat the system entirely.
Depending on the season.
Right. Let's trace the mechanics of a summer failure first. So the air conditioning is running, and the indoor evaporator coil is freezing cold.
And that coil relies on a constant high-volume rush of warm, ambient house air blowing over its fins to absorb the heat.
Because the refrigerant inside needs that heat to evaporate properly. But because the filter is choked with dust, the warm air is barely trickling in.
So what happens to the refrigerant?
Without that steady stream of heat from the house, the physical temperature of the refrigerant just plummets. It drops well below the freezing point of water.
Oh, wow. So all that normal condensation sweating on the outside of the coil?
It suddenly freezes, it turns into a layer of frost, and then a solid block of ice entirely encasing the inner workings of the unit.
And ice is an insulator. So once the coil is encased in a block of ice, it can't absorb any heat from the house whatsoever.
None at all. So the system just runs continuously, pulling massive amounts of electrical power, achieving absolute zero cooling.
While the compressor outside is probably struggling too.
Oh yeah, it struggles with liquid refrigerant returning to it, which can actually destroy the compressor entirely.
All of that, a complete mechanical failure caused solely by a lack of airflow from a dirty filter.
Exactly. Now, flip the scenario to the winter.
Okay, let's look at winter.
You have a furnace utilizing burners to heat up a metal heat exchanger to a very high temperature. The system relies on the blower motor to push a massive volume of air over that hot metal.
To carry the heat away and distribute it through your vents.
Right. But if a dirty filter starves the system of air, the heat has nowhere to go. It is totally trapped inside the furnace cabinet.
And the physical consequences there sound really dangerous.
They are. The heat exchanger gets hotter and hotter. The metal expands far beyond its design parameters, which stresses the material.
Which can lead to microscopic cracks, right?
Exactly. And because a cracked heat exchanger is a severe safety hazard, furnaces are equipped with a high-limit safety switch.
Oh, I see.
So when it detects that the internal temperature is dangerously high, it forcibly shuts the entire system down to prevent a disaster.
Wow. So in both seasons, summer and winter, the machine essentially defeats its own operational capacity because it literally cannot breathe.
Exactly. The parts wear out early, the power consumption spikes dramatically, and the equipment is forced to endure extreme physical stress.
Simply because a piece of cardboard wasn't swapped out.
It really puts the urgency into perspective.
It really does. Understanding that immense physical strain makes checking the filter so incredibly urgent. Which brings us to the very practical hurdle for the homeowner.
Right, knowing exactly when to actually intervene.
Because you look at a filter and after a few weeks, it usually looks a little dusty, but is it completely full? How do we actually know?
Dave points out that people overthink this. You don't need any special diagnostic tools or pressure gauges to measure the airflow restriction.
Oh, thank goodness. So there's a foolproof visual cue. We aren't just guessing.
No guessing required. Dave Hartzell shares his oldest trick in the book, and it relies entirely on visual physics. He calls it the light test.
The light test. Okay, walk us through it.
It's so simple. You pull the filter out of the wall return or the unit cabinet, and you just hold it up to a strong light source.
Like a bright window during the daytime?
A window is perfect, or even just an unshaded lamp in your living room. You just evaluate how the light passes through the filter media.
Okay, so with a brand new filter, the material is relatively porous.
Exactly. When you hold a new one up, the light shines through easily. You can clearly see the brightness piercing the fabric.
But as the filter does its job and catches dust and pet hair, those pores fill up.
Right. So when a filter is due to be changed, you can see the visible graying. But more importantly, the light is heavily diffused. It looks cloudy.
And what about when it's completely overdue?
When it's severely overdue and actively choking your system, it blocks the light almost entirely. The material looks opaque.
So the physics rule here is foolproof. If photons of light cannot make it through the webbing of dust and dander,
then air molecules certainly cannot pass through at the volume required to keep your system functioning properly.
your eyes are directly verifying the airflow restriction. That is brilliant.
It is! And it completely upends that generic advice you constantly hear, to just change the filter on a strict 30-day or 90-day calendar schedule.
Yeah, Dave says a rigid calendar schedule completely fails to account for the physical reality of your home, right?
Because every single house is a unique environmental ecosystem. The timeline isn't a hard rule at all.
I mean, think about the variables. If you have a house with a couple of large, shedding dogs, maybe a cat, and a gravel driveway outside.
You are constantly kicking up a massive volume of particulate matter. That filter is going to load up dramatically faster.
Compared to, say, a tidy house occupied by one person, no pets, hard flooring, and paved roads outside.
Exactly. The pet owner with the gravel driveway might completely fail the light test in just 3 weeks.
While the single person with no pets might pull a filter at 3 months and find it still. Runtime is another massive variable. In the mild weeks of spring or fall, your system might only kick on for an hour or two a day, so the volume of air passing through the filter is low.
But in the dead of summer or the dead of winter, that system might be running for 14 or 16 hours a day.
Which means exponentially more air crossing the filter, which equals a much faster buildup. You just cannot rely purely on the calendar.
Right. So knowing how to read the filter's condition using the light test naturally brings up the hardware itself. What kind of filter should you be holding up to that light?
This is a critical decision point where, honestly, good intentions often cause severe mechanical damage.
Because when you are in that hardware store aisle, you see a huge variety. You've got the thin, see-through ones, and right next to them are the thick, folded, accordion-style ones.
The deeply pleated ones, yeah. And the logical assumption most people make is, well, if the goal is to protect the equipment from dust, shouldn't we all just buy the absolute thickest, highest-rated filter we can find?
It makes sense intuitively. The tighter the weave, the better the bodyguard, right?
Exactly.
But Dave issues a very, very firm warning against this logic. No. You must only ever use the size and thickness your system was originally built for.
Wait, really? So a better filter can actually be a bad thing?
If your system wasn't designed for it, absolutely. Every HVAC system is engineered to operate against a specific amount of airflow resistance.
Okay.
If you take a basic system designed for a lightweight filter and you force an overly restrictive thick filter into the return, you are essentially installing a filter that is already plugged.
Oh, wow. So it stars the system of air right out of the box, just like a dirty filter does.
Exactly. It induces all of that motor strain and coil freezing we discussed on day one, even though the filter is technically brand new.
Okay, so you have to know what your system is built for. Let's break down the mechanics of the two main types Dave highlights. starting with the thin 1-inch fiberglass filters.
So those fiberglass filters are straightforward physical nets. They are designed to catch big debris.
We're talking pet hair, heavy dust bunnies.
The things that would immediately ruin a blower wheel, but because they're thin and have a relatively small surface area, they fill up extremely fast.
So if your system uses these, you need to pull them and do the light test monthly.
Yes, fully expecting to swap them out every 1 to maybe 3 months, depending on your home's ecosystem.
Okay, and then you have the thicker pleated filters, the deep media ones with the accordion-style folds.
The folds are actually a brilliant engineering solution to that airflow resistance problem.
How so?
Well, by folding the material back and forth into pleats, you drastically increase the total surface area of the filtering fabric while still fitting it into the same size opening.
Ah, so you're giving the air far more physical space to pass through.
Exactly. Because the air is distributed across a much larger surface, the filter can use a tighter weave to catch finer dust without immediately choking the system.
The dust is spread out over all those folds.
Right. So these deeper pleated media filters can safely go a few months before they restrict airflow again, provided your system was designed to handle them.
But Dave is careful to note that having a higher capacity filter doesn't mean you can just install it and forget it. You still have to monitor your ecosystem.
Which is why Dave outlines a really foolproof routine for homeowners. The goal is to make the right choice the easiest choice.
Okay, let's hear the routine.
Step 1. Determine the exact size and type your system requires, and buy them in multiples. Keep a stack of them on a shelf in the garage or utility room.
That makes sense. If you have to drive to the hardware store every time you suspect a dirty filter, you will inevitably put off the chore.
Oh, 100%. You'll put it off until the system is already straining. So, step 2. Anchor the habit to a memorable date.
Like the first of the month.
The first of the month is universally the easiest. When the calendar flips, you pull the filter and perform the light test.
And step 3 is my favorite. It's the absolute best way to eliminate the guesswork of trying to remember when you last swapped it.
Yes, the marker trick.
Right. When a filter fails the light test, you grab a new one from your stack, take a marker, and write the current date in large numbers directly on the cardboard frame before you install it.
It creates a permanent log. You never have to rely on memory. You pull the filter on the first of the month, look at the date written on the frame, hold it up to the light, and you immediately know if your system has the airflow it needs.
It is such a small, easy action that prevents massive systemic strain on your machinery.
It really is.
So distilling Dave Hartzell's 47 years of insight down for you, the listener, here are the core takeaways. First, reframe your thinking entirely.
Right. That cardboard square is the physical bodyguard for your equipment. It is protecting the machinery first and your lungs second.
If you neglect the bodyguard, the airflow drops, the motor strains against extreme resistance, the indoor coil freezes solid in the summer, and the furnace overheats in the winter.
Second, ignore the generic calendar advice and actually read your home's unique environment.
Use that visual light test once a month to verify if air can actually pass through the material.
And finally, ensure you are only using the filter type your system was engineered to pull air through. Keep a backup stack in your house and use a marker to write the date on the frame so you always have a baseline.
Understanding the mechanics of your home protects the lifespan of the equipment. But Dave Hartzell wants you to know that if you pull a filter and you genuinely aren't sure what you're looking at with a light test,
Or if you change the filter and your system is still acting up and struggling to maintain temperature.
right, if things still aren't working, Dave is glad to help.
Dave and his team are ready to step in. You can call Hartzell's Heat and Air directly at 405-375-4822.
And they are located at 602 South Main in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. They're a family-run operation, completely NATE certified, and they hold an exceptional 4.8 stars with over 300 Google reviews.
And as we mentioned, Dave brings exactly 47 years of hands-on experience to every single call. You can also reach out and book an appointment online at hartzellsheetair.com.
47 years of understanding the deep physics of how a home breathes.
Mhm.
It really forces you to appreciate the invisible mechanics running quietly in the background of our lives.
It really does.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you to ponder.
What stands out to you?
Well, we spend so much time interacting with the surface of our homes, assuming certain components exist purely for our immediate comfort.
Yeah,
If we've been so fundamentally misunderstanding the true purpose of something as simple as an air filter, assuming it was a mask for our lungs when it was actually a vital shield protecting the mechanical heart of the house, makes you wonder,
it does.
What other invisible systems in our homes, or even in our daily lives, our habits, are we actively neglecting simply because we don't realize what they're actually working so incredibly hard to protect?
That's a great question.
Definitely something to think about the next time you pull that cardboard frame out of the wall and hold it up to the light.